Good evening and welcome to the Job Search Solution, the radio program where we talk about looking for a job, changing jobs, changing careers, hiring. And as always, we begin with a prayer. Dear God, grant us thy peace and thy mercy, thy will be done. And in this session, I want to talk about the worst places to interview and the worst times to interview. So let's begin. It's pretty simple. The worst places to interview begin with airports, train stations, bus depots, any place where people are trying to get where they need to be in a hurry. Taxi cabs. I've had people interview in taxi cabs. Lousy way to do it. Ubers. That's a lousy way to interview. Limousines. That's a lousy way to interview. Lousy place. Sporting events. Oh my goodness, that is just terrible. Hospitals, unless of course you're interviewing for a job there. Had a candidate one time that went to meet an employer after the employer had an operation because the employer insisted on it. Not a good idea. Social events, any kind of social event, Christmas parties, 4th of July picnics, New Year's Eve parties, anything that smacks of a of a of a social event, bad place to interview. Automobiles, yeah, automobiles, either yours or the hiring authorities, especially while driving. I've had candidates offer to take hiring authorities to the airport, and they interviewed them in the car while they were going to the airport. Not a really good idea. Personal residences, either yours or the hiring authorities. Not a good way to do things. Anything outdoors, parks, swimming pool, gazebos outside, anything that is outside where you're distracted by nature. Um, Over the phone isn't the best way to do it. I can live with it, but it is not the best way to do it. Zoom, Skype, or video interviews. They've taken on a whole new way of interviewing. We described it last week that you need to be aware of the innuendos that go into any kind of video interviewing. And if you're a candidate doing it, or even an employer, you got to practice this stuff. Any place that's busy, retail, Starbucks, have a lot of people that interview people at a Starbucks. Starbucks is noisy. I think Starbucks does it on purpose to get you in and out, buy your stuff, and get going. It's too much of a casual place. Any kind of coffee shop where it's not quiet and people are walking by and you're getting distracted by the people. Hotel lobbies, lousy place to interview. A lot of employers will do it, certainly better than the hotel room that the hiring authority has rented or taken out. But hotel lobbies are not good. A manufacturing plant floor. We've had people interview for technical jobs on the plant floor of a manufacturing facility. Restaurants. I do not like meals, um, uh, breakfast, lunch, or dinner interviews. People do it. I can't keep them from doing it, but they're not really good because when you mix social with business, you run a big risk. It goes without saying bars or meeting people for drinks in an interview because it's better not to drink in an interview at all. But you're almost forced to when you get into a bar or let's meet for a beer or a drink. If you're a candidate, get one and maybe make it a Coke. Anything other than a business office is not optimal. Also, uh, glass work centers where everybody can see who everybody's talking to. Not a good way to do things. Candidates get real nervous about where they're who's watching them, and it's not a WeWork isn't good with all the glass that people can see. Worst times to interview: Sunday evening, terrible time. Monday morning at 8 a.m. Anything Monday morning at all is not good. People's circadian rhythms are all messed up. When you're sick or you have a fever, Unless you have a fever, go to the interview because you may not be able to reschedule it. Saturday is a very poor time to interview. I mentioned Sunday evenings, but also Sunday. The first morning, the hiring authority is back from a vacation or a long business trip. The day before a holiday is not a good day to interview. After 6:30 in the evening, especially on a Friday, is not a good time to interview. People are brain dead and they're tired from the day. Don't interview while you're on vacation or while the hiring authority is on vacation. People's minds are in vacations. While the hiring or interviewing authority is on vacation, either you or them, on your way back from a shopping trip or dropping the kids off at school or anything that's relatively social. Don't interview on religious holidays during the week where your hiring authority might be celebrating a religious holiday, Rosh Hashanah, Ramadan, Christmas, anything along that line. You need to think about these things if you're a candidate and an employer. I've had candidates interview in places like this and times like this, and the employer didn't even remember much about the candidate at all. So be careful when you're going to interview and where you're going to interview. All right, stay tuned. This is Tony Bashara with the Job Search Solution.